Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but first, let's hear from our podcast sponsors. Oh, before we do that, let's give a shout out to our partners, the Global Community of Women in High School Sports and We Coach. Now let's hear from our sponsors. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment of the podcast. Athletic surveys are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. At our schools, we use surveys for just about everything, for coaches, for teachers, for kids, and for parents. And the information that came back was almost always positive. But surveys also allow that parent to vent a little bit. And sometimes they're going to share a small issue that you can address and keep it from turning into a big issue because you didn't know about it because you hadn't done a survey. Go to athleticsurveys.com or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com for more information. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the pros at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to say thanks to Final Forms, the industry leader in forms and registration, but there's so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like reminders for physicals, reminders about school policies, and all the forms that come when you have a student athlete in your home. Final Forms can also help your coaches with communication and attendance. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help you with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. You know, it's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and see why Huddle is how the world sees sports. Join over 200,000 teams who use Huddle to help their athletes play better and their coaches coach better. At my school, we were a Huddle school, and our coaches just love the smart apps, the cameras. Of course, they love the analytics, but there's so much more. Huddle's got the tools to help your coaching staff and your athletes perform at their very best, and they'll provide a professional grade solution for the challenges you face as an AD. At Huddle, we believe in sports, and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users. Go to huddle.com and become a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. Go to Gipper.com and use the podcast code ADPOD10. That's ADPOD10 and get 10% off. That's Gipper.com. Create custom branded content for your school's social media channel. We also encourage you to go to onsnap.com. That's the Snap mobile platform, but they've got a ton of tools that are going to help any athletic director do the very best job they can. SnapRaise is their fundraising platform. Our coaches use SnapRaise and raised thousands of dollars, and it was so easy. They also have a program where you can get your funding before you even start your fundraiser. SnapSpend is their secure and transparent money management platform. Snap Store allows you to order custom gear for students, family members, and all the supporters of your program. Snap Connect is their multilingual family engagement communication platform. And Snap Manage will help you create a website just for your school. You can find it all at OnSnap. That's OnSnap.com. OnSnap.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. They're going to show you how to set up and sell your tickets online. They'll show you how to scan the attendees that come to your games and collect your revenue. And every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. They'll also show you how to set up and sell tickets for things like school dances, your school plays and your concerts, even graduation. That's hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to say thank you to Sideline Interactive. Their indoor scoring tables and video boards not only generate income for your department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com to see exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. You've heard me say we've got a Sideline Interactive indoor scoring table in our gym, and it's just fantastic. We use it for games, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. It's tremendously versatile, and their customer service is just outstanding. That's sidelineinteractive.com. Check them out today. And we also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. Their interactive touchscreen video consoles and their library of templates will help you recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. And go to vitalsignswalloffame.com, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com to get started. Again, their touchscreen consoles are just fantastic. If you're looking for a great way to display your school's school records or your Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Got a really cool guest today. We're going to be visiting with Zedrayn. Sometimes she goes by Zee Butler. And she's got an incredible background as an athlete, as a coach. She's an author. She also is going to tell us about her endeavor, which is called the Ball Code. She's the founder and CEO of that organization. And all of this is coming to us from the great state of Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. So Zedrayn Butler, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake, for having me. And thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, well, gosh. Thank you. Zee and I connected like a lot of folks do these days on LinkedIn. You know, I saw her profile and her background, and I'm just thinking, wow, this is a great story. This is something that we want to share with our listeners. So thanks for coming on. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. I know you got an incredible sports background, but what's the Zee Butler origin story?
Ooh, all that applies, all of the above. That's me. No, but I am a proud Pine Bluff, Arkansas native, born and raised here in Pine Bluff several moons ago, not too many, but I actually got into sports at the age of 7. So I started pretty early, I guess. I've actually played basketball, but I started out playing softball, and not
Wow.
many people
Mm-hmm.
know that softball, baseball is like my favorite sport ever, which is crazy, but I love it. So I began playing basketball about the same age when that season came up, and I pretty much have been in the athletic world ever since then. I went to Watson Chapel High School, which is also in Pine Bluff. And it is actually I'm a little biased, but it's one of the better programs in girls basketball in the state of Arkansas. From there, I actually took the JUCO route. So I went to Tyler Junior College and played for the TJC Apache Ladies, which, was another really great team. From there, I actually went to Stephen F. Austin State University and I played there, which again, right now I think is the 7th winningest women's basketball program
Oh,
in the
wow.
NCAA. Yeah, so I'm really lucky and blessed to have gone and played for some really great schools along my athletic career. Yeah.
I always love to hear the stories. Now, that's
Yeah.
not the end of your basketball playing career. Share with our listeners that next chapter.
Yeah. So actually, as a senior in college, I love critical thinking. And so I always like to prepare myself, and I'm always asking myself questions. And the question that I asked was, hey, do I want to be a coach or do I want to be a family person? The ironic thing is my high school coach, she pulled me to the side one weekend. I visited home and she said, you know, you really should be a coach. And she told me her reasons why. And as soon as I got back to school, like right before practice, an assistant coach at SFA pulled me to the side and she said the exact same thing and gave me the exact same reasons. And I was like, oh, you know, I really could do this. But Jake, I think I was just so burnt out. And I thought about what it would look like as a coach, being on the road, living in and out of the suitcase. I really wanted to be a family person. So I chose to be, I chose the family role. I said that, you know, I'm just kind of burnt out. I want to be a quote unquote regular person. So I got out of it. But I kind of got back into it. I went ahead and several years later, I went back and I got my master's degree in sport management at University of Arkansas at Little Rock. And it was at that point while I was in the program, I knew I wanted to come back to sports. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And along with the help of a mentor and my advisor in the study program that I was in, it helped shape what I do today. And so from that, I always wanted to be the person who I never had in my corner. So there were a lot of questions, a lot of gaps in the process of transitioning to college. So I started my business, the Ball Code. And from the Ball Code, it actually helps create avenues to fill in those gaps of transitioning to and from college. So I service high school students as well as college students, as well as parents with questions and things of that nature. From that, I also came up with a leadership program to kind of help merge local high school athletes and college athletes together in the community and really focus on their leadership skills and their success while they're in school and then after after they've completed that portion. There are many other things that I'm working on even right now. Um, as far as coordinating a high school basketball classic that's pretty huge
Right.
here in historic, right here in the city of Pine Bluff. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about all of this.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because we're going to take a deeper dive into, your organization, which listeners, it's called the Ball Code. We'll give you all the contact information and check it out. But our guest today is Zee Butler, basketball player, coach, entrepreneur, and leader. We're going to take a quick break, the first of a couple, but we'll be back with more. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com and they're going to show you how to set up and sell your tickets online. They'll show you how to scan the attendees that come to your games and collect your revenue. And every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. They'll also show you how to set up and sell online tickets for things like school dances, your school plays and concerts, even graduation. That's hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor scoring tables and video boards. Their products not only raise money for your athletic department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. We've got a Sideline Interactive indoor scoring table in our gym, and it's just fantastic. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. It's tremendously versatile, and their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their tables and their boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. We're visiting today with Zedrayn Butler, basketball player, coach, entrepreneur, and the founder and CEO of the Ball Code. We're going to hear a little bit more about that. But first, Z, we always like to kind of hear about mentors. Who are some of the people that have helped you along the way? The expression I use is I still hear those voices in my head. So, do you have any voices that you hear?
I have voices that I hear, voices that I talk to all of the time. Outside of family, uh, absolutely my high school coach. It is actually Pine Bluff has a large population of African Americans who stay here. And I remember meeting my coach, and I talked to her over the phone first before I even met her. And in the culture here, that's all I knew was the African American culture as it relates to like little league sports, which is what I started from. So when that end when that ended, and it would start to dive into school ball, seventh grade here, there was a change, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I don't know how to play for this type of coach. I've never done that before. Like I like, do they know what they're talking about? Do they know the game like I do? Because I was just like so crazily such a professional by then, I guess. I don't know. And she has been one of the most impactful people that I could have ever met. I mean, all credit, I say this all the time. She has really put so much knowledge of basketball into she just fed me all of the things that she's known as a coach, and I just absorbed all of those things. And I think that that really was a critical piece for me getting to my next level, which is college. I mean, she has been an incredible support for me. um I do other things like I may throw a scholarship game, or I have all these ideas that I act on. And if there's anything that I need to know the truth about, regardless of whatever it is that I'm doing in life, I'm always calling her. I'm like, hey coach, I need the truth on this. Or, I only asked you because she's very cutthroat, and that is something that I need, and that's something that I thrive on. So she's still a high school coach. She still coaches at the high school that I'm at right now, that I went to. One of the legendary coaches, when you talk about girls basketball in the state of Arkansas, really awesome person. And it was after my last game in the state tournament that she called me to her office and said, hey, Z, what do you want to do now? Where do you want to go? Um, I had correspondences and contacts from college coaches. And then my senior year, everything just kind of decreased. And I'm just like, well, what's going on? And I started getting a lot of correspondence from junior colleges now. So you go from like private schools, really nice universities, nice institutions, Ivy League schools, all of these big schools, to now junior college. Okay. So after she asked me that, I told her, I was like, well, I want to go to a junior college, but I don't know which one I want to go to. Like, I want to go to a really good one that reminds me of the program here, um, in which we finished number 2 in the state. Um, and she just says, okay. And then the next thing I know, I get this phone call and say, hey, can we get a couple of your teammates together? I got a coach just want to come down here and just kind of see what your game is like. And that is my soon to be next coach, which was Coach T. She's known as Coach Howard at Tyler Junior College. Again, she is still the women's head basketball coach. So I've been blessed with stability in coaching. Both of these coaches are still where they were when I met them. Um, excuse me, and shout out to Tyler Junior College. They just won the national championship last year in women's basketball. So I was excited about that. So Coach T would be somebody I would list as my second mentor. And then what's so ironic about Coach T, with the ties that she has, is I actually met her when I was in high school, indirectly. She was an assistant coach at the University of Arkansas. And I had been to maybe a few basketball camps by the time she had joined the coaching staff. And again, back then, you didn't really see many Black coaches at all, like in person. Like in Arkansas, you really just didn't. And so I remember sitting back, which was not like me because I'm a very sociable person. And I just remember sitting back in awe and just looking how she interacted with a lot of the different players that attended the camp that year. And I was just in awe because, I'm used to seeing, I guess, Coach Vivian Stringer and Coach Carolyn Peck with Purdue on TV, but I've never seen this in person. So I'm just like, this is a surreal moment for me. So what it seems like is that, like, you already had a yes from me before you even know who I was. And it's just ironic how the cards were played that I actually got a chance to play for her her second year at Tyler Junior College. Incredible woman. I still have conversations with her. I actually was in her wedding a few years ago. So that those coach relationships are very, very, very critical. They played such a imperative part of my life as far as being a role model. I tell people all the time, you turn into people mold you as a person.
Right.
You can meet all these different people and have all these interactions with all these different people. They'll teach you two things. One, they'll either teach you the type of person who you want to be, or they'll teach you the type of person that you don't want to be. And that's how that kind of helps mold you as a person. And they have done an incredible job of, oh, that's what I want to do. Without doing it, because I end up not being a coach, right? I know this sounds crazy.
Well, you're coaching in a different way, and we're going to get into that when we come back. But again, our regular listeners, they hear me say this all the time, but I really just love to hear the stories about how the mentors have impacted. And here's one that you had as a younger person that is you're still connected with and is still influencing you. Very cool stuff. For our listeners, our guest today is Zee Butler. She was an outstanding athlete back in the day, and now she's leading others. We're going to find out about her entrepreneurial effort, which is called the Ball Code, right after this break. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. They've got a mission. They're going to bring your school's legacy to life. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and check out their interactive touchscreen consoles and their library of templates. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school's record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, they're going to help showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. And all you have to do is go to vitalsignswalloffame.com, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. Let them help you recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to the good folks at Snap Mobile. Go to onsnap.com. That's onsnap.com, and check out their entire platform of solutions for athletic directors and coaches. You're going to find Snap Raise. Our coaches use Snap Raise at my school, and it was just fantastic. And they'll help schools just like yours raise thousands and thousands of dollars. They even have a program where you can get your money before you do your fundraiser. Snap Spend is their secure and transparent money management platform. Snap Store allows you to order custom team gear for everyone associated with your program. Snap Connect is their secure, multilingual family engagement and communication platform. And Snap Manage, they'll help you set up an entire website for your school, your team, or your organization. You can find it all at onsnap.com. That's onsnap.com. Check them out today. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Zee Butler. She's a longtime athlete and coach, and now she's inspiring and helping others through her organization that she founded called the Ball Code. So, Zee, share with our listeners, kind of that origin story, and then just why should they be interested? Why should they get in touch with you? And listeners, you should, why should they find out more about the Ball Code?
Yeah, great question, Jake. We talked about having mentors, prior to the commercial break. And it actually kind of starts there. Obviously, we were connected through, I think, Monique AJ Smith, who actually shared a lot about you in introduction. But it was another mentor that I had. Her name is Ilya Swift. So before I started the business of the ball code, I actually became a travel agent at the end of 2019, I think September-ish. And the question is, every agent wants a specific niche, and I never could think of like, what is my niche? I have no idea. What do I want to focus on? And I signed up for her to be a mentor for me to help me, because here it is, she's this young person, 33, much younger than I am, and she owns this agency, and she's doing extremely well. Every group conversation that we would have, my brain would just go into overdrive after it was over. And I was like, I have to connect with her. And things finally worked out to where they finally scheduled me in February of 2020. And I was excited to tell her I found my sports niche. And she just kind of said, yeah, that's good, but think of something else that you can do. And I'm like, I don't want to do nothing else. And she asked the question as far as like, if you've mastered something, like how can you teach other people on what to do in that particular profession? And I thought about it, and it didn't take me long to think about, oh, I can help with preparing high school athletes on how to get to college, how to go through the recruitment process. I've talked to coaches, I've kept that communication open, other former athletes or teammates that I've had. And, we have these conversations. And so it's just kind of like, okay, well, we can help fill in that gap. And that is the time that I realized that this is what I want to be. I want to be the person who I really wish I had in my corner. Because even though I did go through that first year, there were a lot of things that would have helped me if I knew about it and had been more prepared for it. So she told me, she was just like, okay, well, we're gonna start there, and you're gonna write a couple of books. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, I don't write books. Okay, I'm not a book writer. I am just going to do what I do. And by the end of that conversation, it was just so funny, because from talking to her, I literally created like a business plan that would last for like 7 years, possibly, with all these different ideas. The book that was one of the priorities. I actually wrote the book. It was going to be a how-to book, and I wrote the book in like 3 days. The editing process and all of that took the longest, of course. But it was just information that I was just spewing. And that was my first book, 25 Tips for the Next Level Student Athlete. And it's a welcome to college edition. So it's really to prepare the high school students for college. And so the ball code basically is the epitome of helping these student athletes in high school. And then I later said, well, we can help in the college realm as well, how to better prepare for when you actually step on college, because there's a gap. Like there's nobody there that's actually, there's not a lot of people that's actually helping in that phase. You either have recruiting agencies who will help you get to the next level, or your talent will help you get to the next level. But preparing for that next level, which is something I'm excited to talk about as one of the topics in my book, which is athletic identity. And then also helping those student athletes who really had the desire to play at the collegiate level, but did not get a chance to, looking at what that looks like in terms of transitioning out of sport. Those are the type of things that I think about and create resources for, in order to better help with that transition process.
Again, it's one of those things that every high school student athlete is going to go through eventually, and every college athlete as well. I love the idea about helping with the transitions, and when people ask me, about my book, well, what's the most important, message out of your book on something like a podcast? I just hate it because, I think there's so many important things, but I'm going to do the same thing to you. What's, maybe one thing that, for our listeners. Well, let's do this first. Okay. If they want to find out, how can they get the ball code, or if they want to find out more about what your program does, what are the steps to do that? Let's do that first.
Absolutely. So my website is www.theballcode.com. You can hop on there, check out the things that I have. I have some resources on there. I like sharing a lot of different things on my social media. Um, and it is at the ball code on Instagram and Facebook. So at the THE ball, BALL code, CODE. On Twitter, it's a little different. So it's at the underscore ball underscore code. So all of these links are on my website. So if you just go to the website and just check it out, there are links to my social tags. Send me questions, send me your thoughts, anything. I'm open to the discussion for that.
Yeah, again, I've been on the website, and it's really cool. What are some of the things that, let's say, that high school athletic director, in Arkansas or Florida, where we're at, or anywhere in the country, what are some of the services that the ball code can provide for them and their coaches and their student athletes?
Yeah, one of my most favorite things is coming to actually speaking to the athletes. I tell everybody I love questions, and the athletes are very inquisitive about the next level, regardless if they want to play in college or if they don't want to. Sometimes they just want to hear it, and I always enjoy sharing messages, motivating messages with them as well. Right now, what I'm getting ready to do is kind of go and tour some schools and help prepare them for those athletes who actually have a desire to play, or the athletes that we know that probably are going to play at the next level. I like to share some of the information. I also created a playbook. Jake didn't mention that, but I created a playbook for our high school students, and it really talks them through like how to send email or have email tips or different strategies, or how to select your college based on the factors that's important to you, how to have these conversations, how to social media etiquette. It is an 84-page playbook that I'll take portions out of it just to share with the athletes, because these are some of the things that I've noticed in talking with coaches that, man, we have athletes that come to us and they'll send us an email and you can tell it's copy and paste because it has the wrong coach's name on it, certain things like that. So yeah, I have that there on the website. But I also am a trainer by heart. That's what I do in my full time. So I create training specific to whatever the need is. So yeah, just reach out to me and let me know what you need, or if there's anything that I can help with.
No, absolutely. So again, that's the ball code, theballcode.com. Check it out. And again, a lot of different services, a lot of things that can help ADs, coaches, and their student athletes. Great stuff. We're going to take another break. I know our regular listeners are shocked at that, but I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Please stay with us. Zee's going to be back with some more on the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to the good folks at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors and coaches are creating world-class marketing content for their school social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. Go to Gipper.com and tell them you heard about it on the podcast. Use the podcast code ADPOD10. That's ADPOD10, and get 10% off. Start creating custom branded content for your school's social media channel. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to Huddle.com. Huddle is how the world sees sports. Over 200,000 teams use Huddle to help their athletes and coaches perform at the highest level. As a head football coach, I used Huddle for years. But as an athletic director, our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the auto tracking cameras, the mobile apps. Of course, they love the analytics, but there's so much more. Huddle has the tools to help your coaches, your teams play better. And if you go to huddle.com, you're going to find a complete solution for the challenges you face as an athletic director. At Huddle, we believe in sports, and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. Welcome back, everyone. Our guest is Zee Butler. She's the founder and CEO of the Ball Code, long-time career in and around athletics. Zee, you and I were talking during the break, and you do a lot of training with leaders. Share with our listeners a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what I do is I actually train supervisors and executive leaders with the state of Arkansas at the Division of Children and Family Services. Before I did that, I've had a few years, almost 15 years in child welfare. And one of the positions that I had was being a supervisor that I absolutely loved. I loved that, which I think has a lot to do with the fact that I served as captain and served in a leadership role, starting with junior high all the way up to SFA, being in those leadership positions. And so leadership is something that I really, really like to hone into. And a couple of things that I talk to and have those heart-to-heart conversations with supervisors and places. First, I think that it is very imperative for leaders to understand that there's more than one way to get to where you are. So, for example, Jake, if I asked how many different ways can you drive into the city that you reside in, you may tell me that there's several ways that I can get to the city that I'm in, right? Um, and I share this with my high school athletes in my leadership program that I have going on right now, and I ask them the same question. And the goal is actually to get to the city that you're in. There are different ways to get there. Some ways may take longer, some ways may take a short amount of time. You may travel these roads routinely until you get familiar with the area and decide, oh, let me try going this way because that also might get me to my city. Well, in terms of leadership, what I think that is important to remember is that it's not a one-way street. Your idea of how to get somewhere, it could be a great idea, but for someone else, they may think, okay, this works better this way. At the end goal, though, is that you get to the same thing. A lot of times I see leaders who take out the ideas of others that they lead, which you don't have to use their idea, but actually just taking the idea. We all know that for those that are in leadership and those who are statisticians, I don't have the numbers, but one of the number one reasons why people leave where they are is because of how they feel treated by their superior. And that is one thing I think that we need to just really kind of take back and look at a focus on. Which leads to parallel processing. I love talk about parallel processing with my leaders. So for example, if I want my players to be tough, if I want them to be mentally prepared, if I want them to go out there and give it their all, my expectation from them has to be something. But at the same time, I have to have certain rules in place, certain guidelines in place. I have to have a strategy in place. But the question is, are you following your athletes outside of sport? Are you keeping up with their academics? Are you really vested into what happens after? Or are you only using them for what is for right now? Is it important? Are you pushing them just because you want to make sure that you have job security? What is it that you are really pouring into these coaches? I mean, in these players, I'm sorry. The parallel processing part of is that now you have to ask yourself, what I'm expecting and what I'm wanting out of that, what does that look like between the relationship between me and my superior? Is it the same? Because it should actually just line up. There shouldn't be a difference in those relationships. Those are the successful programs when you're able to, if my leader is treating me a certain way, is that same way that my leader is treating me, am I treating the people that I'm leading? It should be a straight line across. And I think that is where some of the leaders are just needing to be reiterated, or just be reminded of what does it really mean to be a leader? Why do you even want to lead in the first place? Because if it's not coming from a passionate side, if it's something that you're not passionate about, then you may see some struggles within your leadership circle or the people that you lead. And then there's this thing like the organizational charts. If you're familiar with, if you can just visualize what an organizational chart, and most of the time you see organizational charts, you have like this box at the top and these lines that connect and they go all the way down or something like that. Well, that really looks like power. I overpower you, rather than everybody just being on the same page and really seeing what our vision is as an agency, as a school, as a department. What is our goal and how do we get there? It kind of goes back into how many ways do you get into the city. I think with those three things, those practices, you really do create that environment that makes people want to go harder. When you include people to have a voice in, they usually tend to work harder for you. Their ethics usually are different than when you're always on a demanding side. So I love talking about those three different things. I think that it embodies teamwork more than a dictatorship, but I think those are your successful programs.
You touched on a couple of key things at the very end, and again, the teamwork aspect. As a leader, you can say, well, this is how we're going to do things, or you can create that environment, that culture, if you will, where everybody, the so-called boss, the workers, et cetera, they all feel like they're on that same footing, that same team. And as you said, that's how greatness, whether it's in business or in athletics, occurs. Everybody's working toward that same goal. Okay.
Yeah, and to just kind of add to that, sometimes you have those leaders in certain positions, um, and they may not have the experience uh, in whatever field that it is, for the people that they are actually leading. And sometimes that makes it difficult. It's not always a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing, but sometimes it does make it a little bit more difficult.
No, absolutely. Good stuff. For our listeners, our guest today is Zedrayn Butler. She's the CEO and founder of The Ball Code. You can find out more about that great program by going to theballcode.com. We're going to take another break, but we're moving up to the conclusion. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Final Forms for their support of the podcast. Final Forms is the industry leader in forms and registration, but there's so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like reminders for policies, for physicals, and all the forms that come when you have an athlete in the house. Final Forms can also help your coaches with organization, with attendance, with communication. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help you with reports and eligibility and rosters and all the things that come across your desk. It's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake and get started with Final Forms. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Zee Butler, longtime coach, full-time leader, and also a multi-author. You mentioned that you've got a new book. Is it out or is it coming out? Called The Mental State of Athletics. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, it is out right now. I have it available on my website, www.theballcode.com. And the mental state of sports really just kind of started out with, I do a lot of thinking, and I probably think too much, Jake, in my spare time. But I just kind of did a lot of thinking. And what I've done is I've pretty much given it a two-part definition. One being, excuse me, Athletes who use sports as a coping mechanism, regardless of what playing level that they're on, regardless of what sports they play. Um, I got into this routine of randomly talking to people I knew that played sports, regardless of whatever level it was. I've talked to some who never went past the high school level, college level, professional level. And I asked a simple question, Jake, why did you even play in the first place? Like, why did you start playing? Why did you continue to play? And I'll get what sometimes they'll give me like band-aid answers like, oh, I just love the sport, or it was just something that I wanted to do, or something that I just decided to do in high school. And, I call those band-aid answers. They're good, they're valid. But going into the real deal of why you actually play, and I started getting answers like, well, verbal abuse was so abrasive in the household, and I just knew I had to play basketball to get out. Or the gentleman who said, well, I knew if I was on the basketball team, I'd get a brand new pair of shoes. Or the professional soccer player who was just like, I just wanted to be rich. And I was like, I feel that. I feel that. We all do. Um, and I sat next to the plane with this swimmer who went to a D3 school, and she gave me what I considered a band-aid answer at first, but it was something that she said. She was like, I just remember it being so peaceful when I was in the water. And I was like, okay, well, in order for, you to feel so much at peace out there, I said that, there possibly could have been a very chaotic lifestyle somewhere. And Jake, she just looked as though I read through her soul. And it was just like, oh, now I know it's real. There are a lot of reasons why we use sports as a coping mechanism, and therapists will tell you, play sports, go out and be active, do something to kind of help with that. And that's good and all. For me, my parents got divorced when I was 5, and I had a very hard time dealing with that. But the more that I became that I grew into my identity as an athlete, by high school, I really kind of forgot that that was the biggest push. So I talked to a group of professionals at this summit this past May in Houston at the Black Student Athlete Summit, and I told them, softball was my favorite, and the reason why it was my favorite was because I love to bat. I was considered like at some points of some games, a lot of the games, I was either the cleanup batter or somewhere around the cleanup batter. And it was because I was swinging at all the things that I didn't like at that time. I didn't like the fact that my dad was not in the household anymore. It's like I can swing all of my frustrations out, and it was working, you know. Um, and it just kind of got to the point where, like, if I played basketball, well, I could be physical down low. I was taller, so I played post, so I can get away with a push. And I can get away with a couple of these things. And it's really kind of playing through the pain that I have really experienced outside of sports. Um, but the thing, though, Jake, is that at some point, sports is going to be no longer. I call it life after the final buzzer. At some point, and if we don't address those issues, then what am I going to use now as a coping mechanism if I can't play anymore? Those are some valid questions for regardless if you're talking about a high school athlete or you're talking about a college athlete. For the high school athlete, I talked to a parent out of New York, and he was just really talking about how his son was just so just nonchalant. He just graduated high school, just nonchalant, just not motivated to do anything. He couldn't get him to do anything. And, I in our conversation, I knew he played basketball. So I asked, well, how long did he play basketball? And he said that he played, I think, earlier than 7, maybe 4 or 5 years old. And the thing about how we're talking to our children as parents, or other community leaders, sometimes you'll have the community come and say, "Oh, you're so good. You ought to be playing on somebody's team, or you're gonna be in college, or you're just that good." But that's not anything that is 100% true all the time. Um, and so this son, he was hearing these things. He was hearing his dad say, "Oh, you're going to be on somebody's college team throughout these years." Well, what happens if that does not happen? And I told him, I said, "Hey, he's just trying to find out who he really is right now, because sports is all he knew." at that time. And even when I look at myself, my mom told me all the time, what would you do outside of basketball? And I was like, oh, I got time to figure that out, because I knew I was going to play in college, but I was just like, I got plenty of time. But that's where I went wrong. And a lot of homes, they help prepare their children for the next level. They help them prepare that, but then you have some homes that really don't. So that's pretty much the first part, is just understanding that you're using sports as a coping mechanism. How can you help that mentally? Now, the second part of that definition is all of the mental aspects that surrounds the athlete. Um, no, I don't think that there's a certain age limit for a person to not be stressed out. High school recruitment is stressful, and it's stressful for everyone. It's stressful for the athlete, it's stressful for the parent, it's stressful for the coach. Because if they have a child or a student athlete that has that potential or is good enough to go to that next level, it's really trying to figure out how they're going to get there. And you can just only imagine, with how many student athletes you have across the country, how many emails coaches get, how many DMs coaches get, how many tags coaches get. It's kind of hard to keep up with a lot of that stuff. So, my whole thing is, how do you stand out from the original? So you did a sponsorship for Huddle earlier with all of those people who actually use it. But how do you stand out from the person who plays your position? I think that also when it comes to play, high school athletes kind of become comfortable with their environment, meaning I love this saying. I always say this: your biggest competition is not against the people that you actually play, but your biggest competition comes from those people that you don't see play. So if I'm an athlete in Texas, I don't know what an athlete that has my same position in Ohio is doing, or the hard work that they're putting in when there is no practice, when there is no game. And so I kind of become subtle in what I just know and how much do I push myself. Because I could be the greatest person in my area, but when you compare areas, is that something to really be not be so humble about, I guess you could say, which goes into the athletic identity piece that I talk about in my book. Because we've had these conversations time and time and time again, where I could score 50 points in a game. And once I score this, that's good and all. But when I get to college, there are others who score 50 points, or known as Mr. or Miss whatever sport that they're in. And that plays a huge factor in come to terms who you are as an athlete.
Wow, really great stuff. I wish we had more time to go into some more aspects of the book. For our listeners, tell them the name of the book again and how can they get it?
Yes, the name of the book is The Mental State of Sports, and you can get it at www.theballcode.com.
Very cool. Well, Zee, this has been really neat spending some time with you and get to know you a little bit. I'm excited about getting the book, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with our athletic director toolbox segment. You certainly know your way around the world of sports, but we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to find out what Zee Butler is going to put into her athletic director toolbox, which is sponsored by Athletic Surveys. So stay with us. We'll be right back. This is the Educational AD Podcast.